भर्तुर्नाम महाराज
भर्तुर्नाम
भर्तुर्नाम महाराज
महाराज
पार्षदाः सहसा पतन्.
पार्षदाः
पार्षदः
सहसा
सहसा
पतन्.
पतम्।
Yes.
May I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Ji. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ji ki jai.
Jai.
Translation. My dear king, the order carriers of Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, immediately arrived when they heard the holy name of their master from the mouth of dying Ajamil, who had certainly chanted without offenses because he had chanted in complete anxiety. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks, Hari Kirtanam Nisha Nishamyapatan Katham Bhutasya Bhartur Nam Bhruvata. The order carriers of Lord Vishnu came because the Jamal had chanted the holy name of Narayan. They did not consider why he was chanting. While chanting the name of Narayana, Jamal was actually thinking of his son, but simply because they heard a Jamal chanting the Lord's name, the the order carriers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, immediately came for Ajamal's protection. Rekirtan is actually meant to glorify the holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities of the Lord. Ajamil, however, did not glorify the form, qualities, or paraphernalia of the Lord. He simply chanted the holy name. Nevertheless, that chanting was sufficient to cleanse him of all sinful activities. As soon as the Vishnu Dutas heard their master's name being chanted, they immediately came. In this regard, Srila Vijayadhwaja Tirtha remark, Arena putra sneham antarena prachinadrasta balad udbhutaya bhaktya bhagwan nam sankirtanam kartam iti jnayate. Ajamil chanted the name of Narayan because of his excessive attachment to his son. Nevertheless, because of his past good fortune in having rendered devotional service to Narayan, he apparently chanted the holy name in full devotional service and without offenses. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is Agyata Sukriti. The Lord's name is being chanted without any motivation other than seeking shelter of the Lord. Like Srila Prabhupada is mentioning the same thing. Actually, we can talk about different stages, Anartha Nivritti, Ruchi, Shraddha, all those things. But most important thing is the mood in which the name is being chanted. See, don't make bhakti too technical. Don't try to understand it very technically. Then we get caught up in semantics. What am I doing? Am I at the Ruchi stage, Shraddha stage, or am I in Bhav stage? No, you are in all the stages at all times, up and down, constantly coming up and down. But actually, the most important thing is in what mood are you chanting the holy name? Like Prabhupada always says, like real chanting of Hare Krishna should be like the helpless cry of a child for his mother. So actually, in this stage, even though Ajamil had no knowledge of the Lord, he still chanted the names of the Lord in a helpless state. So you can see, actually, his consciousness was not even in the Lord. He was not even thinking of the Lord really. But he just called out the Lord's name in complete desperation. And that was enough for the Lord to consider it as chanting. So instantly his sinful reactions are nullified. But you still see one thing, that at this stage, Ajamil did not still get Prema Bhakti. He would be saved from danger. Neha vikramo nashosti pratyavayona vidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhaya. So he'll be saved from the greatest danger. So greatest danger is loss of consciousness. Ajamil was certainly destined to reach the lowest hellish planets. He was extremely sinful. His destiny was to be in the lowest reaches. But because he had already chanted the name, his sins were vanquished. But because he did not chant exclusively for Lord's favor, he did not obtain love of Godhead. So he obtained liberation. So we have to understand this one thing. One part that we understand from here is that chanting of the Lord's name must be done with intense feelings. Otherwise, that chanting will produce no effect. The real chanting is one where one chants with full heart. So you need not be in any stage of purification. You need not be a sannyasi. You need not be a Mahabhagavat. But you can with little bit of knowledge that you already have, you can at least understand how dangerous this material world is. You can understand how horrible the situation of this material world is and in what great danger you're living. So, recalling all of that, you can pray to the Lord in complete state of helplessness. That kind of chanting will purify you from material fears. Trayate Mahato Bhayat. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here? Continue. Text 31. Vikarshato antar hridayat.
कर्षतो अन्तर्हृदयात्
Dasi patim ajamilam.
दासीपतिम् अजामिलम्
Yama preshyan Vishnu Duta.
यमप्रेष्यान् विष्णुदूता
Varayam asurojasa.
वारयाम्
Varayam
आसुरजसा.
asur ojasa.
May I read from
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna General Pranam. Translation purport by Sri Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The order carries of Yamraj is snatching the soul from the core of the heart of the Ajamal, the husband of the prostitute. But with the sounding voice of messengers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Deta forbid them to do so. Purport. A Vaishnava, one who surrendered to the lotus feet of Vishnu, is always protected by Lord Vishnu's order, Kekarias. Because Ajamil had chanted the holy name of Narayana, the Vishnu Duta, not only immediately arrived on the spot, but also at once ordered the Yamadutas not to touch him. By speaking with the sounding voice, the Vishnu Dutas threatened to punish the Yamadutas if they continue trying to snatch Ajamil's soul from his heart. The order carriers of the Yamraj have jurisdiction over all sinful living entities. But the messengers of the Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, are capable of punishing anyone, including Yamraj, if he wrongs a Vaishnava. Materialistic scientists do not know where to find the soul within the body and with their material instruments. But the verse clearly explains that the soul is within the core of the heart, Hridaya. It is from the heart that the Yamdutas were extracting the soul of Ajamila. Similarly, we learn that the super soul, Lord Vishnu, is also situated within the heart. Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hridayate Arjuna Tishtati. In the Upanishad, it is said that the super soul and the individual soul are living in the same tree of the body as two friendly birds. The super soul is said to be friendly because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so kind to the original soul that when the original soul transmigrates from one body to another, the Lord goes with him. Furthermore, according to the desires and the karmas of the individual soul, the Lord, through the agency of Maya, creates another body for him. The heart of the body is mechanical arrangement, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18.61. Ishvara Sarvbhutanam Hidese Arjuna Tishtati Brahmanan Sarve Bhutani Chitrani Yure Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Yantra means a machine, such as an automobile. Driver of the machine of the body is the individual soul, who is also its director or proprietor. But the supreme proprietor is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One's body is created through the agency of Maya, Karmanam, Devi, Nitran. And according to one's activities in this life, another figure is created, again under the supervision of Devi Maya, Devi Hisu, Gun Maya, Maya Duratya. At the appropriate time, one's next body is immediately chosen, and both the individual soul and super soul transfer to the particular body. See, this is the process of transmigrating. During the transmigration from one body to the next, the soul is taken away by the order carrier of Yamraj and put into particular type of hellish Narka in order to become accustomed to the condition in which he will live in the next body. Hare Krishna Babuji, General Pranam.
Hare Krishna. So the order carriers of Imraj were snatching the soul from the core of the heart of Ajamil, the husband of the prostitute, but with resounding voices, the messengers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas forbade them to do so. So very important point here. Actually, Prabhupada explains something very interesting in his lecture also on the same verse. So, Yamraj, see, the soul lives in the region of the heart. Ishvara sarvabhutana vriddeshe arjuna tishtati. So the soul is not living alone. He's living with Paramatma. But he feels lonely in this world because he has no knowledge of Paramatma. He can perceive the Supreme Lord, but he does not recognize him because of his conditioning. So in this way, the living entity wanders from one part to another. So a very interesting verse, actually, this 18.61, which is quoted here. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hrideshe arjuna tishtati brahmayam sarvabhutani yatrarudani mayaya. The living entity is wandering under the instruction, under the guidance of the Supreme Lord only, but he doesn't understand it. The Lord inspires him. Okay, now you're living here, now you can go to live in Delhi. Okay, Delhi is not so nice, go and live in Calcutta. Okay, Calcutta is not so good, maybe you can go and live in some foreign country. So this inspiration, that is coming from the Lord only. The living entity alone has no knowledge, Sarvasya chaham hadi sannivishto mattah smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Okay, do this, you will be happy. Here, take this knowledge, and you will be happy. So one gets to become an engineer, another becomes a doctor, someone becomes a lawyer, someone travels the world, someone goes to Himalayas. All this inspiration and knowledge, the capacity, they're coming from the Supreme Lord only. But Lord himself is sitting quietly within the heart, in the region of the heart. So if one leads a life of piety, then he'll be guided upwards. But if one lives a life of sin, then he's guided downwards. Now, very interesting point here is, like Prabhupada again emphasizes this point, this one. Dasi patim ajamilam, the husband of the prostitute. Actually, somehow Prabhupada emphasizes on this point a lot. So, you see, in today's world, we see the whole world is now overrun by rascals. So, Prabhupada explains that, that one should, so like Prabhupada says, there are different types of categories of women, Sarindri, Pumshachali, there are different types. So, in today's world, when chastity is not so important, practically all the women, especially in the West, they are falling under the category of Pumshali. See, the living entity is always looking for happiness. And if he's in the mode of goodness, or if in the mode of goodness, he'll seek this in terms of pious activities. But in the mode of passion and ignorance, the living entity will seek this happiness in lower modes, in lower activities. So naturally, the living entity who has taken a female form is naturally more passionate than the one that has taken a male form. So women are very much prone to degradation, as discussed in Bhagavad Gita also in the first chapter. So if a man is somehow or the other unfortunate to be married to a Pumshchali, then his life will be ruined. So Pumshchali, Prabhupada explains that Pumshchali that means that a woman who's easily carried away by any man. So, a man can say, oh, I'll give you some wealth or something, and this woman is immediately tempted and she is like again indulging in a prostitute-like behavior. So such a woman is herself like finished. She is condemned, but her husband is also condemned. So according to scriptures, such a man would be also ruined. Like Prabhupada is explaining here in this verse, Dushta bharya shatam mitram pratyashtottaradayaka sarpe cha grahavaso mrityur evana sanshaya. That if one's wife is dushta, if one's wife is unchaste, if one has a friend who talks back, And if there's a snake living in the house, then death is certain. Mrityur eva na sanshaya, that your death is certain. So Prabhupada explains that if the wife is unchaste, she'll get her husband killed someday or the other. And we see that, like newspapers always talk about that. Then if the friend is disloyal, if the servant is talking back, if there is a snake living in the house, these are all akin, death is certain. Such a man will not live for long. So Prabhupada explains in this particular verse, especially this Dasi Patim word has been emphasized here. So you can see how dangerous it is, because he was a Dasi Pati. He was in this condition. If he would have not been a Dasi Pati, he would have actually been pious. He was a Brahmana. In fact, he had a young chaste wife. He left her to live with this unchaste woman. So if a man lives with an unchaste woman, his own spiritual life will be ruined. So Prabhupada is warning here, and especially he's giving this as an instruction for ISKCON. That, he says, therefore we must train our girls to be extremely chaste right from a very young age. Because if they become unchaste, then they'll ruin the lives of their husbands, and in turn the whole movement will be ruined. And we can see that is happening now. So one has to be very, very careful. So you see, Bhagavatam, we can understand Bhagavatam, there are translations, there are purports, but we should also see what points Acharya is specifying or specifically emphasizing for our time and place. So here in his lecture, Prabhupada emphasizes this particular point very much. So transmigration also happens because the living entity has different types of desires. Here in this case, Ajamil's desires are very degraded. But these degraded desires came because he was married to an unchaste woman. So what is the definition of a chaste woman according to the Shastras? One who is obedient to the husband. And the husband, of course, he himself must be chaste to his spiritual master, and he must be in Sattva-guna. So if the husband is like a austere devotee, and the wife is chaste, such a couple will be able to achieve miracles in this life. But if the husband is himself not so fixed up in bhakti, and wife is unchaste, that will be ruination. So even if there is a fixed up husband, actually we have an example. We had one devotee who preached in Germany. His name was, he was a disciple of Prabhupada. He was of Germanic origin. He came to Germany to establish preaching mission. And his wife left him. She just ran away because she found Germany austere. So Prabhupada wrote that this is like unchaste behavior. But, he said, okay, you just forget about her. You continue your service. Krishna is accepting your service. So we see, that if the wife is unchaste, the husband will be affected and the movement will be affected. So Prabhupada was very particular. And in fact, towards the end, Prabhupada completely stopped this institution of Grahastha Ashram. He just wanted all the devotees to be either sannyasis, brahmacharis, or just stay outside. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, when this soul is extracted by the Yamdutas, so that time the super soul is also there.
Yes.
How does it match? Because
The super soul is, how can super soul be affected? He is Brahman. Super soul
But
is
he
within
is-
the heart of the Yamdutas also.
but he is there.
Yeah, he goes with the living entity.
It also suffers like them.
No, he doesn't suffer. He's just a witness. He's
he
warning. He's warning the soul what is going to happen, but the soul should listen to him.
But you see the loyalty. That despite that, he accompanies the soul. Very good. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji, you also had a question.
Prabhuji, I had 3 questions. 2 of them you already answered. One left. Usme hai, there's no doubt. Sorry, I'm still stuck at the previous point, previous verse. There is no doubt he's chanting Krishna's name with anxiety. But within the heart, he's not thinking of Krishna, he's thinking of his son. So the consciousness at that time is of fear and remembering son, not of Krishna. So
Yes.
how does that work?
Uh,
Like superficially he's chanting Narayan, but not with the consciousness that he should have.
okay. See, Krishna, see, this is Agyata Sukriti. I mean, he was a Brahmana. Ajamil was not some ordinary sinful man. Ajamil had been a pure Brahmana for the 20 years of his life, for the first 20 years of his life. That description will come a little later now. He had been a pure Brahmana and he had rendered devotional service up to that point. He became overcome by the mode of passion and ignorance. That sanskar still existed within his heart in a very small trace. This is also displaying the causeless mercy of the Lord. So Krishna accepted that little service. Neha vikramo nashosti pratyavayona vidyate. He had rendered some devotional service. So that devotional service got fructified when he chanted the name of Narayan in Agyat Sukriti. He had been a devotee at one point.
So this is also helping us understand how dangerous it is. Like that Brahmana who has served Krishna for 20 years, he
Yes.
got attracted by prostitute. What does that talk about anybody else?
Yeah, and look at our situation. We are surrounded by this kind of
We,
lady.
we are worse. True,
Like
true.
we have our mobile phones, we have televisions, everywhere this propaganda is jumping at us. In fact, Prabhupada makes a mention of this in 1970s. Prabhupada says, we can understand the condition of our brahmacharis. So it's a dangerous situation.
That's why it makes you wonder we have no these actually Bhagavatam stories actually help us realize we have no other way out other than calling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We
Yes.
have no way.
So Srila Prabhupada actually mentions this. Srila Prabhupada actually mentions this, that that if you have rendered devotional service with your heart, and somehow or the other at the end you are not able to still remember, Lord Chaitanya may himself come to take you out. But for that, our devotional service right now, when we are still not affected by Maya, we should fight hard.
True.
Maya's waves are coming from all around. But when they are not there, we should at least fight quickly.
When I hear that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I don't know, it just feels so hard at heart that we are useless, yet Krishna is so merciful.
Yes.
And we are still useless. So many times we hear these pastimes and somehow the uselessness doesn't go away. Sorry.
No, it will take time. It's lifetimes of conditioning which have to go away. It will take long time. It's not like these conditionings have come now. They have been there for ages and ages now, for lifetimes after lifetimes. We are now trying to purify them by like a bundle.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, in this present age when devotees are going out to preach, things we are saying, it means like we have to be so conscious about first to protect ourselves and then we can really give the message.
Pardon?
There's always a chance. We see that most of the programs and everywhere there are more Matajis, and definitely there is always a chance that if you are even not alert or not sincere, then there is always a chance that you get trapped by all these illusions.
See, bro, while preaching, one has to be intelligent enough also. It's not that a fall down takes place instantly. Like you walk there and suddenly some Menaka and Rambha will come and get hold of you. Even they don't do that way. So, especially during preaching, this was a point actually I was anyway thinking of discussing someday, but now it has come automatically. You see, Prabhu, the point is like this, as far as possible, Prabhuji should avoid preaching to Matajis. Public programs, you speak and then you go away. If a Mataji has a private question, she can ask in front of the people, or she can bring her husband along, or her father, or someone. A Prabhuji should never be alone in a room with a Mataji, and certainly not on WhatsApp or this kind of Facebook or these kind of things. That's very, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. Shastras, the scriptures are warning us against being in the same room with our own sister, mother, or daughter. And here we are with a very strange lady also. So we should not do that. We should respect the scriptures and their instructions. So as far as possible, one should avoid solitary discussions with Matajis. I mean, I'm talking from Prabhuji's perspective. Mataji should never go to preach in the first place in these public places, forums like this. They should preach to Matajis only, not to Prabhujis. That's why this whole female Diksha Guru and all this is like, not according to Siddhant. Prabhupada never approved of it. So Prabhujis should, first of all, avoid. So, if some Mataji is especially cooking prasad for you or praising you a lot, then you should be very careful. You should just avoid. Actually, yesterday I was having a discussion with my senior godbrother, and we had a long chat, and we were discussing the very same topic. So he gave a very interesting perspective. I mean, he's been a long-term preacher. He's been in the preaching mission for last 30 years. So he's very intelligent. So he was giving one very strange, very interesting point he made actually, which struck me also as quite intelligent. So he said that as far as possible, a Prabhu, a preacher, should avoid creating any feelings in the heart of Matajis. No feeling, it should not be a feeling of happiness, sadness, or whatever. No, just give the philosophy and move on. If there has to be any feeling, it should be between the Mataji and Prabhupada and Mataji and Krishna, not between Mataji and yourself. Because any sort of feeling, happiness, unhappiness, anger, separation, any of these feelings will be an attachment. So, avoid all such feelings because they are dangerous. Not good for you, not good for the Mataji also. I mean, your objective is to deliver that soul, not to entangle her further in this Maya. But there is fire and butter principle. So from a practical perspective, as far as possible, Prabhujis should not preach alone to Matajis. I mean, philosophy, you have a lot of philosophy, you give that and let them think it over. And then they can discuss always in a public forum, but not personally. I'm not blaming Matajis or I'm not blaming any Prabhujis. But what I'm saying is that this is dangerous. We know this is going to happen. So which one should avoid, nobody.
Basically, it's a principle that so we should take our own precautions.
Yeah.
Unless it is a need of the hour, then only for preaching purpose one has to preach. But that also we need to pray intensely that we can find an alternative.
Yes, as far as possible, avoid preaching single. Like avoid, going alone to
So it is
places to preach.
also very important that even Matajis understand this principle. So Prabhujis definitely during the times when we used to we came in Krishna consciousness, this principle was very nicely put forward, and we were in fact none of us at our times would even dare to look face to face with the Mataji. All my colleagues, I remember, I never used to see a Mataji and directly spoke. Yeah, unless a Mataji says, okay, can you help me out where to go like this, then they would talk. Otherwise, we would never have a direct gossip with any Mataji. This was how we were trained at that time.
Yeah. So
the same goes with the other side also. Like this etiquette needs to be followed. And Mataji also should not get offended that if somebody is not giving a direct audience, so one has to understand that there is an etiquette to be followed so that their spiritual query needs to be satisfied in a proper way.
Yeah. See, we have to understand it this way, Prabhu, that this material world is a dangerous place. And, we are doing a dangerous job. It's not easy. Like, you see this, you live in Kharghar, you see these tankers, sulfuric acid and, hydrochloric acid. There is always this yellow triangle there, dangerous machine, stay clear, wash with water in case of an accident. So it's like that, it's a dangerous vehicle we are driving. A preacher's body is a very dangerous machine to drive, goes to dangerous places. So devotee must be always on his guard at all times. So especially when you are preaching to Matajis, understand why you are preaching. And first of all, understand that, this is also another soul who's being victimized by Maya. And be very careful. See, no devotee goes out to preach and thinks, okay, today I'll have illicit sex. No one thinks, okay, I'll have illicit sex with this Mataji. No one thinks like this. But yet it happens. And it happens repeatedly within our movement. Because we don't take precaution. No driver thinks that today I'll run my bus off the ghats and I'll fall into the ditch. No one thinks like this. And yet it happens because the driver becomes less alert. Oh, I know, I am an expert. I know this vehicle very well. I am totally in control. And suddenly you are always in control until you are suddenly not. And then you realize, oh, it's too late. So no, when suddenly you have developed feelings for some Mataji, Mataji has developed feelings for you, you are done. Your spiritual life is finished. Because if you have illicit sex, then you'll have to take another birth. Prabhupada puts it very simply. He says, oh yes, then you'll have to take another birth. You won't go back to Godhead. So you see, so think what is at stake. So, you have something which is extremely valuable. Amara Agya Hai Guru Tara Hai Desh. Mahaprabhu has given you this responsibility of trillions and trillions of living entities. Mahaprabhu has selected you to preach this message. What a privilege this is. Just think of it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying, my dear friend, even if you are an expert in logic, please apply your skill to the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and you will find a miracle in your own life. So you see, just think of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, that he has given you such a privilege to preach the holy names of Lord. Will you just throw it away for something so insignificant? I know attraction to female is very powerful, extremely powerful. So don't go there, if you know there is a danger. If there is some Mataji who you find attractive, don't go there at all. In the beginning, you are just finding her attractive. So you can just pull back. Or you think, oh, this Mataji is attractive. No, don't get tempted. Dhyayato Vishayana Pumsha Sangasteshu Pajayati. So before this Sangha, before this attachment develops, at the Dhyayato stage, you just leave. She may be attractive, thank you. That's for Krishna to decide, not for me. Prabhupada used to say, even I am scared of Maya. So we should be terribly scared of Maya. Just think of it, something so insignificant, it'll ruin our life. It'll ruin lives. That Mataji's life will also be ruined. So, it becomes sin, it becomes an offense. And most importantly, we don't do this because we don't avoid because it's offensive or sinful or whatever. Because Mahaprabhu will not like it. Srila Prabhupada would not like. Think of it, You come back from preaching, you are answerable to Srila Prabhupada. Are you going to tell him, okay, Prabhupada, I am just having an affair with this Mataji. She's so attractive. No. If you think Prabhupada is going to ask you, how was your day? What will you answer? So think of it this way and nothing will happen. You will be protected. It's very dangerous. I mean, it's a very, very, very difficult task. I'm not saying that I am myself capable of doing it. No. So be on guard at all times. Bhakti is very practical. Prabhupada says, use your intelligence and organization. So devotees should be intelligent and they should organize themselves. Yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. That was a very nice call out. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Yes. So we stop here today. We'll continue tomorrow with this discussion. The discussion between the order carriers of Yavraj and the Vishnu Dutas. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Bye.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Dandavат
Krishna.
pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Dandavat pranam.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so
Pranam,
much,
Prabhu.
Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you. Dandavat pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Thank
Thank you, all the
you.
devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Shri
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna ji. Dandavat pranam, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु
हरे
आपका
कृष्णा
कैसा रहा दिन
आज हल्का था थोड़ा नया चश्मा बना के लाया
ओ चश्मा
हाँ प्रभु
तो क्या है उसमें ब्लू रे प्रोटेक्शन
ना 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 कुछ नहीं सादा ग्लास वो एक्चुअली नंबर चेंज हो गया ना आंखों का थोड़ा सा
हाँ ये टाइम पे चेंज होता है क्या हुआ प्लस का माइनस ऐसा कुछ हुआ है क्या
नहीं वो अभी प्लस आना शुरू हो जाता है ना 45 के बाद
हाँ
तो अभी प्लस 1.5 है लेकिन वो लगवाया नहीं बट वो माइनस का नंबर कम हो जाता है फिर
ओके
माइनस का कम हो गया तो थोड़ा सा आंख में प्रेशर आ रहा था तो फिर वो चेंज किया तो
तो ये आपको कैसा पता चलता है मतलब कौन से जगह पे मतलब क्या चीज पढ़ने से आपको समझ में आता है
हाँ, तो
क्या चीज
मतलब
पढ़ने से मतलब दूर का चीज दिखाई देने लगता है कि क्या होने लगता है?
ये दूर का चीज बहुत बहुत सर दुखने लगता है, वो नंबर एकदम शार्प हो जाता है ना, चश्मा वो थोड़ा ज्यादा पावरफुल
हाँ
हो गया था। तो अभी 1.75 एंड 2 हो गया है नंबर। पहले -2.25 एंड 2 था, अब
हाँ,
-2 एंड 1.75 हो गया है।
बाइफोकल हो गया।
नहीं नहीं नहीं, थोड़ा सा मायोपिया कम हो गया थोड़ा सा।
ओके।
तो उसकी वजह से चश्मा दुख दुख रहा था, और फ्रेम भी टूट गया था मेरा पुराना वाला।
ओ।
एक ही चश्मा था, वो भी ऐसा खुल सा गया था एक तरफ से।
ओके।
तो अभी कल ऑफिस भी जाना था और आज बिल्कुल ही खुल गया, मैं डर ही गया था। तो आज ही उसका फोन आया कि चश्मा तैयार है, तो
हाँ हाँ,
निकले
अच्छा हो
निकले।
गया। ये बहुत आपका आज इतना अच्छा पॉइंट वो बताया प्रभु जी का डायलॉग के बाद, प्रभु जी से